Have Scott kind of talking. We'll see when he pops up. I'm trying to get some of the sound issues worked out for me, but here we go. I think I got it. Scott, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
There, I finally got you. My apologies. I was on my end. How's it going? What do you think about the first 5 picks so far?
Pretty chalky.
Yep.
I like them so far. I'm 5 for 5 in my mock, so that's always a good thing.
As am I.
No, very good. No big surprises yet. I mean, anybody who follows the site or listens to the podcast or anything, they know how we feel about Cam Newton. So probably don't need to delve into that too much. I just, like I said, I think their GM Marty Herney and their head coach Ron Rivera just probably pre-signed their pink slips. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We've talked about that at length before, ad nauseum. Now, let me get your take on this Von Miller pick in the 4-3. I think there's some people in the chat had some trepidation about it. We saw it at the Senior Bowl. I think it's a great pick myself.
I like it too. And if this were 5 months ago, I might have been a little leery of it too because I wasn't sure how he could transition to a 4-3. But after watching him at the Senior Bowl, no problems at all. He showed that he can be an impact player in an even front. And
well, the Browns have traded down. Falcons have traded up to 6.
Wow.
I want to see what this is going to cost them. Now, imagine they're getting Julio Jones here. Was the big rumor pre-draft.
Wow, I mean, you got to figure it's their first, second, and third.
First
and
next year.
And the one next year for
Gotta
sure.
Be 27 to 6.
I mean, that's a massive jump. And,
yeah.
I mean, Cleveland, they just took themselves, I mean, they did this when they had a chance on Mark Sanchez. They took themselves out of the area where they could get an elite talent to build their team around. Now they just did it again.
And it's kind of baffling. It's a little bit baffling. And look, if you pick up a first next year, you get 2. I understand that. Them package might be great. But this is a struggling team, changing defenses. Do they maybe like the value of D-line later in this draft? I don't know what that possibility is. At the same time, I'm not sure I love this for Atlanta. It makes their offense one of the best in the NFL, perhaps, if they get another elite wide receiver opposite Roddy White. But your defense is not going to improve if that's what you're taking at 6.
Well, and Cleveland's going to get a lot for this, but the first rounder next year, which we're assuming they're going to get, how high is that going to be? It's going to be a late first round pick. So it's not like they're going to get the 6th overall pick unless they earn it themselves on the field, which they very well might. You need elite talent to build your team around. How many blue chip top tier guys do the Cleveland Browns have that other teams covet that could start for any team in the league? Not too many. Joe Thomas, Joe Hayden.
I'm trying to rack my brain here. That's
maybe Nathan Hillis, but I mean running back. I mean, now this is twice. They did it a few years ago too. They traded from number 5 overall and down to the late teens and basically they have nothing to show for that trade.
And they got
spare parts they got.
And they got Alex Mack. I think that's another blue chipper that they have on that offensive line. But you'd want to get another guy. I have to guess that with Peterson gone, with Miller gone, Darius gone, they don't like Fairley enough to do it. But moving down that far is what surprises me. I could see them moving down 10 picks or so and still being happy with that selection. But who are you going to get at the end of round 1 is going to make an instant impact. They're going to be picking top 10 again, I would imagine.
Well, and they need a 4-3 defensive end. And there is not going to be 4-3 value at 4-3 defensive end late in the first round. Those guys are going to be gone by probably the early 20s at the very latest. So they've taken themselves out of position. Everyone talks about what a great defensive line crop this is. They just took themselves out of range for 90% of them, probably.
Yeah, but from the other side, let's look at it from a Falcons perspective. You have Roddy White, who I think is emerging as one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. An aging Tony Gonzalez. You have the running back in Michael Turner. Offensive line can be a little bit of patchwork at times. Matt Ryan turning into a good quarterback. Is getting another elite wide receiver talent, is that the last piece for Atlanta to become Super Bowl contenders? I'm not sure that's it.
Well, and I mean, I think Atlanta needs a defensive end a lot more than they need a wide receiver. Now, obviously, with what they paid, I don't think they're going to go up and take a Robert Quinn here. But I mean, I don't know. I don't like it for what they probably gave up. I don't like it for anyone. I don't like it for Cleveland. I don't like it for Atlanta. I'm just interested to see what the price they paid was.
So, no, they've given up a first, second, and fourth this year and a first and fourth next year to get Julio Jones.
Yeah, it's a pretty high price.
And he's not going to be your number one wide receiver next year. Roddy White's still going to be your number one. You're not going to bring in a rookie to start over a Pro Bowler. So that's a steep price to pay for a second wide receiver, as CB is saying in the chat room.
And how are they going to upgrade that defensive line now? They have a third-round pick, but there's not going to be a very good defensive end there in the third round. I can tell you from doing that mock draft, it drops off real quick. Pretty much by the middle of the second round, it's definitely by the third round. The value at 4-3 defensive ends is all gone.
Yeah, I mean, this is giving up your whole draft and next year's draft for Julio Jones. They must have fallen in love with him. And even still, it's just not the position that I would think you'd address. I mean, if you're trying to move up, then I would try to move up to the top three and take one of those, either Von Miller or Marcel Darius, instead of going for the receiver. But I'm really going to be interested to see what Atlanta Falcons fans feel about this draft choice.
Well, and I think they're gonna like it just because it's a high-profile, sexy pick. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's the right pick. I don't know if I'm the Falcons. If I was sitting there, I wouldn't have taken Robert Quinn. I think Robert Quinn is every bit as talented as Julio Jones. I actually had Quinn number 5 on my big board and Julio Jones number 6, and defensive end was much greater need.
Yeah, hey, you can't say they're not shaking up the draft, but a lot of mocks that had Cleveland taking Julio still correct. I think yours as well, correct, Scott?
I had him going up 6, so I had the right spot, just the wrong team.
Hey,
but now this next pick is very intriguing. I know there's a lot of talk that maybe the Niners won't take Blaine Gabbert, but man, I think they'd be hard-pressed to pass on him. And what a perfect situation for Blaine Gabbert to go in. He's raw. He needs some development. He gets to go in and be coached by a quarterback guru. If there's a situation where he's going to fulfill his potential, it's this, because Harbaugh's going to have plenty of time. It's not going to be on a short leash. Harbaugh knows what he's doing. He's shown he could do it with Josh Johnson. He did it with Andrew Luck. I just think this would be a phenomenal pick for the 49ers, and I think they're lucky to have him available here. As much as I like Patrick Peterson, I think he's the best player in this draft. I don't care if he's Deion Sanders. The Cardinals aren't going to win with Mark Bulger, John Skelton, and Max Hall as your quarterbacks. Yeah. It's just not going to happen.
Here's the only reason I think Harbaugh may pass is that when he was in the NFL as a talent evaluator, he did pretty well at finding some of the guys that were more gems in the mid-rounds. Like a guy like David Garrard, I know he had ranked a round or two above where he was drafted. So maybe he's going to find one of these guys in round 2 that he really likes or trade back up into round 1. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. A lot of these first-year head coaches go the opposite of what their forte is because they feel they can develop that talent that's already on the team. We saw it with Spagnuolo and Bradford last year. I think we may see with Harbaugh addressing the defense, knowing, hey, I'll take a mid-round quarterback, I'll get Alex Smith to hit his potential because he's that confident in his own coaching ability.
Well, and the question you have to ask yourself now, though, too, is who's available. I mean, I could see passing on Gabbert maybe if Patrick Peterson's available, but now Patrick Peterson's gone. So who are they looking at? Prince Mukamara, Robert Quinn, Alden Smith. I mean, are these guys special enough prospects at their position? I think I'd rather have an average quarterback than a slightly above average cornerback or defensive end. And granted, these guys have the potential to be more, but I just think quarterbacks are so much more valuable at this point. I think Gabbert would be the clear-cut choice here.
Yeah, I think they're going to go with that pass rusher. I think Alden Smith can be that dynamic. He has that type of potential, and I think it's going to take him a bit to hit that potential. But if he does in San Francisco's system, it could be a pretty nice fit. Gabbert definitely fills the biggest need, and the value's good there. But I can see him definitely falling down one more pick to Tennessee. But it looks like San Francisco's going to pick here. They're not going to be trading out of it.
Well, let's say, okay, best case scenario, let's say Alden Smith turns into DeMarcus Ware. How many games did DeMarcus Ware's team win last year?
Wow, you can throw that back a couple years, and they won plenty of games. Once again, it's about Harbaugh being confident, I think, in his ability to develop a quarterback. Dallas found Tony Romo, and he wasn't a first-round pick, so it's the same difference. They took a first-round pass rusher, developed him, and then when Tony Romo was actually in and playing quarterback for them the past few years, they've been successful. Maybe Harbaugh will think he can hit lightning in a bottle like Dallas did with that.
All I know is there's elite players at just about every position that played for bad teams. How many elite quarterbacks played for bad teams?
No, it's a fair point. No, I don't think Blaine Gabbert's an elite quarterback, and I don't know if they do either.
I think he has the potential to be, and I think he can reach that potential under Jim Harbaugh.
But if, let's say Jim Harbaugh values someone like Christian Ponder or Andy Dalton over Blaine Gabbert in terms of that, then should they take Blaine Gabbert here?
I mean, there's no guarantee they're going to get those guys, though. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah, looks like it's going to, yeah, it looks like I don't know if you want me to ruin the picks for you, Scott. I can let it go here.
You must be, I'm watching at ESPN. Oh, I can see.
I am too, yeah. There's Alden Smith on the phone. I think it's hit both of them, so.
I mean, I love Alden Smith, but even if he becomes the best pass rusher in the NFL, no quarterback equals bad teams.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I think a redshirt sophomore, I don't think Alden Smith's a guy that's ready from day one either. Now, this is what I had in my mock for them, so I got this one, this Cleveland, but I got this one. I think I've been hearing from day one that San Francisco wanted to address that pass rush, and it could be a big mistake. I mean, if they go into this season with Alex Smith and he bombs once again, it might not matter, like you said, as well as Alden Smith does. I don't think San Francisco's done, though. I feel like they may move around. This is a team I'm interested in. Them in Buffalo. I'm interested to see if one of them trades back into round one for Ponder.
Boy, I don't know.
Scratching your head on this one. This is you know, but we saw this last year with Jimmy Clausen, right? I mean, everyone's like quarterbacks, and now Blaine Gabbert's here at 8.
I think Gabbert's much more highly regarded, though, than Clausen was.
I agree with you, too. But, you know, I think the people that are now saying Jake Locker, Ryan Mallett, all these guys are going to be top 15 picks, etc., you know, Andy Dalton, whatever, I think we're obviously seeing that's going to be wrong. Now, do you think Tennessee's going to pull that trigger on Gabbert?
They should. I thought Arizona and San Francisco should have as well, so we'll see.
I think it's more of a situation where they will, because I don't see as much glaring need and value matching up for Tennessee. Now, Nick Fairley is still on the board, and you know my mock didn't have Fairley still on the board, so I think it becomes the choice for them. Do you want that interior defensive player in Nick Fairley that can be dominant, has those concerns, effort concerns like Hainsworth did, or are you, if you know Vince Young is gone, guaranteed, do you take Gabbert here? It's got to be between those two players, I have to imagine.
You would sure think. I mean, quarterbacks, you absolutely cannot underestimate the value of quarterbacks. And Blaine Gabbert is far from perfect. You know, he's a project, and he's going to require some work. He's not a sure thing, but yeah, he's got enough there that he can be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and the pick is already in for Tennessee. They did not take up any time making this selection. So, yeah. Whew. I mean, if he doesn't go here, I'm interested to see where he falls down.
Well, I know Minnesota likes him a lot. Washington likes him supposedly, so I think that would probably be worst case 10 or 12.
10 or 12, yeah. All right, let's see. Let's see if there's any questions from the chat room. I think people are scared off by Fairley's off-the-field concerns. D. Saint is asking. Yes, I think that's why he's fallen despite his game. Let's see what the pick is. Jake Locker. Wow. Ooh, Jake Locker going above Blaine Gabbert in this draft. Not something a lot of people thought.
Had that in my mock just 20 picks later.
You did. You had the correct team, not the right spot so much. Now
I'm taking it. I'm counting
it. You're counting it. Does that get counted for Huddle Reports or no?
It does.
It does.
Yeah. All that matters is player and team.
Wow. All that matters is player and teams. Wow. So there you go. Locker. You know, I like Jake Locker.
I do too. I'm on the bandwagon, so I always have been. I never hopped off, and I'm happy for him. I am very happy for him.
Yeah, being a top 10 pick, second QB off the board, people were doubting him, you know, calling him a bad pick. I think correctable issues with him. And here's the thing in Tennessee. You have a solid offensive line, good run game. I know the weapons aren't there. Maybe they'll pick up someone later. If Kenny Britt's back, I don't think it's a bad number one receiver to have. Not a bad run-first team. I think this is where Locker can be successful if they start to mold this offense around him.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. I think it's a great